third hour of the Elias Macco Show. Thanks for joining us along the ride every Monday to Friday from 9 to noon on the program. And every couple of weeks, we get some bonus coverage. And when I say we get bonus coverage, I'm talking about bonus David Heurtel. He joins us, of course, every Friday on the Big Five. But every couple of weeks, we say, we want more. David Heurtel's on the line. Hi, David.
Good morning, Elias.
Okay, so much to talk about politics-wise and the various issues of the day. I'll start it off with the local angle on this, all right? Let's talk about Roxham Road, but I want to pay particular attention to Valerie Plante and her words last night's city council, right? So the opposition trying to hammer the current administration on the mess around Barrie-UQAM, the village, Place du Puy, right? And, you know, we've seen various issues here. David, let me tell you something as someone who's lived there in that area, just south of there for the last 3.5 years. This is before Roxham Road. There were issues, right? Homelessness and drug addiction, there were issues there. But the response from the mayor was quite telling because she immediately went towards the line of, well, Place du Puy now, it's a hotel for asylum seekers. It's where asylum seekers are being housed, and that's adding to the mess here. And she pointed the finger towards the feds and also the province that they need to do more on this issue. What's your take on that? When you know the real serious issues of that area, do you see what the mayor said and say, okay, she's got maybe a point here about how that's made the situation deteriorate even further?
It's a complex issue, and I think the mayor's comments are a bit dangerous at this juncture in the debate on Roxham Road and asylum seekers because the fact is, and you alluded to it just a few moments ago, Elias, the situation in the village, Place Émilie-Gamelin, has been problematic in Montreal for years now. This is not a new thing. And so the fact that Mayor Plante is trying to shift the blame towards on certain issues, she'll go to the province when it's about housing, and now to the federal government because of the fact that it is true that there are some asylum seekers that end up at the Place du Puy shelter. But the fact is that there's no direct link. There's no factual link. There's no studies she can point to or anything she can point to that it's the influx of asylum seekers that have created this mess in this area of Montreal. So, you know, it harkens back. Remember last year, Elias, when we were talking a lot about gun violence in Montreal, and we were calling upon the mayor to do more? What did she do? She turned around and said, oh, it's the province's fault and it's the federal government's fault. Every time there's an issue that touches upon the city's responsibility, now I'll grant her this, it is not the entire city's responsibility. There are issues that are provincial, there are issues that are federal, but to just wholesale blame it on asylum seekers and the federal government, I think it smacks of demagoguery, and I think it's irresponsible, quite frankly.
And my evidence is only anecdotal, right? You know, so for me, David, my evidence is only, well, I walk to the pharmacy or I walk to the grocery store in that area. It's the closest ones to where I live. And to be honest, David, in 3.5 years, this has not changed last month or anything. I've never, ever said, oh, this is an issue with asylum seekers. It's always the drug users and the homeless population. So,
there you go.
Yes, to me, it's a little bit out of left field because I've never gone to St. Catherine Street in that area and said, oh, we have a problem with asylum seekers in this area. I've never seen it. So I don't know, maybe my eyes have been closed in the last couple of months. But
I don't think your eyes have been closed because, Elias, while I don't have your on-the-ground experience, I don't live in that area specifically, but I know that area very well. But also, as you know, I kind of know the immigration file a bit. And the fact is that most asylum seekers will go if they stay in Montreal, because not all of them stay in Montreal, right? But they will go where their community is. So, for example, when we had a large influx of Haitians back in 2017, 2018, they didn't go to downtown Montreal. They went to Montreal Nord and they went to Saint-Michel because that's where the Haitian community is. And so it's not like there's an identifiable community in that part of Montreal, as you well know. Now, yes, some of them go to shelters, but those shelters were set up primarily for the homeless. So, and again, we've seen the ugly side of this debate about Roxham Road. Yes, there are a lot of debates. There are a lot of issues that need to be discussed. The federal government does have a lot of responsibility in this. It's not doing its job properly. But at the same time, we've seen the way the Bloc Québécois and others in the nationalist part of the debate have been pointing towards xenophobia, racism, intolerance, and the politics of fear. And for the mayor to just turn around and point asylum seekers in such a delicate and fragile debate and so complex with no data, nothing to really substantiate this, I think it's quite irresponsible.
So let's talk about that line, and I'm so happy you brought it up because it's one of the things I want to talk about. Like, what is the responsible line here, right? Because you brought up Bloc Québécois, right? And so the Bloc Québécois, if they come out with a series of social media posts that liken what's happening at Roxham Road to people trying to have access to an all-inclusive resort, right? I see that and I go, ugh. And I've also seen, David, Paul St. Pierre Plamondon from the PQ give like a very thought out 4-minute answer to a serious question like Roxham Road. And he gets hit hard as if he was the Bloc Québécois releasing this all-inclusive tweet, And I say to myself, sometimes it feels like at a certain point you can't win sometimes. Like sometimes people try and be rational and or thoughtful, and they get thrown into the lot of the xenophobic. What's the line, David? And as Valerie Plante tries to go along that line here about, well, what's a responsible thing to say and what's not responsible? What do you think is the line? As someone with your acumen in the immigration dossier, what's the line?
And Elias, on past shows, I remember you and I went at it on Paul St. Pierre Plamondon's comments, and we don't necessarily agree on where that line is, and that's okay. And we can have a reasoned debate on where that line is and how we should be treating this. But the fact is we go back to the mayor's response. The fact is that at the end of the day, all politicians of all levels have a responsibility to shoulder I don't want to say the blame, but shoulder what needs to be done to revitalize a sector of the city. And the fact is that a lot of those responsibilities fall within the municipal administration. So this is not about asylum seekers that all of a sudden have appeared and have created the problems that you alluded to in that sector of Montreal that have been going on and developing for years. We've been talking about that sector for years and years now. And it's about urban planning. It's about investments. It's about fighting poverty. There are a lot of complex issues at play here. Some of them have to do with provincial funding. Some of them have to do with federal funding. And some of them have to do with the city. And I think you don't shirk your responsibilities by just shifting the blame to somebody else. That's one. Two, if you're going to say, well, okay, we have an influx of asylum seekers, it's true that it's putting enormous pressure. Asylum seekers are putting pressure on housing, on healthcare, on social programs, on education, daycare, on legal aid. It's all true, and the federal government has to step up. But to try to shirk your responsibilities by dumping this on asylum seekers, it reinforces what some people are doing in this debate, and I think it is wrong to showcase immigration as a problem. It is a fact. It is a reality. And the sooner we come together and integrate this as a working solution and not a problem, I think we'll be better off. Look, we have a labor shortage issue, and the federal government will take a year before giving these asylum seekers work permits. What should take 90 days to adjudicate an asylum claim now can take up to 5 years. That's the source of the problem. Nothing else. It's not the safe third country agreement. It's not anything else than the federal government not taking care of this issue responsibly and seriously. But at the same time, we're talking about urban development. And the fact is that this administration over the past 5 years has been ignoring that sector of Montreal, and it just can't turn around and say, oh, it's the province's fault or it's the federal government's fault.
David, we had a caller give us a call during our 9:30 call-in segment, and she owns a business, and she said every day she has people coming in, they're asylum seekers.
Yeah.
They want to work. They can't get. They don't have their work permit. Right. They're coming in trying to work under the table. They don't have a work permit. They're desperate and they're waiting. Now the wait time is going into years.
Elias, when I was immigration minister, I got the federal government in 2017, 2018 to guarantee that work permits would be issued within 20 days of arrival, and it got done. Why can't it be done now? Why all of a sudden it's now 6 months to a year? I don't get it.
It's another topic that we don't have time for this morning, David, but you wonder if it's going to take hard poll numbers like the one we saw from Abacus that showed the Liberals slipping, if it will take more of those types of poll numbers in order to get the government to do something here.
Agreed.
Hey, David, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Elias. Take care.
Former Quebec Liberal cabinet minister, now council at Fasken, that's David Heurtel.